Hello, welcome. In this video, we are going to go through how to foam roll our own legs, right? So this is going to be really useful if you are experiencing pain in one hip or one knee or one ankle, right? And on one side of your body, and we're trying to figure out where the imbalance or where the knot is in our legs to help just alleviate some of that pressure and give the nerves and the muscles lots of space. So what you need for this little practice here is a foam roller. So our larger myofascial release tool, right? So foam roller, that's the big one. Then you're going to want a smaller tool like a lacrosse ball. It could be a tennis ball, something smaller, something more pinpointed so that when we get into those, when we find the knot, we can kind of use this to massage it out. I also find a yoga block helpful sometimes. So if you happen to have one of those, that'll be helpful. Not necessary, but if you have one. And then we are going to start by rolling out our feet. You could use your foam roller or your lacrosse ball for your feet, but another tool that I really like to use for my feet is a dumbbell, a padded dumbbell, and I use the bar of the dumbbell to roll out my feet. So gather your supplies, and when you're ready, that's where we're going to start. So we're going to start by rolling out our feet. You can do this with your lacrosse ball, right underneath your foot, and you can scrape the bottom of your foot. I just find that my dumbbell is fits perfectly on the sole of my foot, and it doesn't roll away as easy, right? So I just want you to do that. Pick one foot, and you're scraping the bottom of your foot. If you have your ball, you're going to scrape, but then you're also going to smash, right? You're going to find pieces and you're going to smash into that ball. And you got to find what works for you. So as I'm going down the center, I'm going down my foot, what I'm doing is I'm rolling the arch of my foot, and then I'm rolling the outer edge of my foot. You keep going on that same foot. We're still on the same foot. On the heel, you get to your heel, you're going to do little circles or smash with that heel, right? So we're creating compression and pressure into the tissue at the bottom of the foot to help alleviate the tension. And when you get to your toes, to the ball of the foot, I want you to think about spreading the toes and then smashing into whatever device you're using to open it up. Keep breathing. Right? You might get some adjustment through the toes. I always get that when I roll out my foot. All right, then we're going to switch other leg or other foot. So the way this little routine is going to go is we're going to start with the furthest part, our feet, the furthest part away from our heart, move up the leg, and then move back down the leg. That's the way we're going to work it today. Take a breath. But I want us to do both feet because our feet, so often they get bound and stuck and stagnant, and tight feet can really be the culprit for a lot of posture problems, muscle imbalances, that sort of thing. So just identifying, was one foot tighter than the other? All right, once you've completed your other foot, now we're going to go to the foam roller. So you're going to grab your foam roller, and I want you to start on the leg that's giving you the issue. Right, so for me, it tends to be my right leg. So we're going to start with the back of the leg. I like to make fists, or you can have big, strong hands, but just make sure you're sturdy with those arms. And then we're going to go back and forth on the lower leg. So our first section is ankle to knee. That's the first section. Back and forth, thinking about pushing the blood towards the heart. Relax your foot. And then make sure you get different angles. So there's a middle strip where my knee is pointed up to the sky, right? So my leg's parallel. And then I'll roll my knee out to the right side or out to the side. And then I'll get the outer strip of the leg, of that lower leg. And then I'll rotate my knee so it's pointed in towards the midline a little bit. And then I'll roll the inner side of the calf. Oh. And just what we're using the foam roller for is to help us identify what areas of the muscle are feeling bound or knotted. Okay, and then we're done with the calf. Now we go to the next section. We're going to go knee to hip here, right? And when I say hip, I mean all the way up to your sitting bone. So back of the thigh here. Oof. And if you're feeling like you're not getting enough pressure, where you're like, oh, this doesn't feel like much, you could always add more pressure by crossing the opposite leg over. Now, this is a bit of a workout because you have to hold yourself up off the ground. So please be mindful of your arms. Take a big breath in. Let a big breath out. Once again, I'm doing a middle strip, rolling my leg to the outside, outer strip a little bit. It doesn't feel good to roll on the IT band, which is right on the outside of the thigh, but we can go right up against it and you'll feel the difference, right? We're not trying to roll bone. We're trying to roll the muscle tissue. Okay, once you're done with your hamstring, noticing, is there any knots in there? We'll get back to it. Now we're going to go up to your booty, your glute muscles in here. And the way the glutes work is they fan from the sacrum, which is the hard part back here, they fan outwards, kind of like this, right? So as I'm foam rolling, I kind of have to get at an angle so that I can get from my sacrum back there all the way out to the hip. Right? You got to follow the tissue. I find it helpful to kind of lean to the side, maybe drop my forearm down here and get into glute medius, which is right here on the side of the hip, kind of side back of the hip. It's this chunky muscle right here. And that one sometimes tends to get locked up quite a bit. Ooh. And you're identifying like, okay, wow, that is really tight. Or oh, that doesn't feel like anything. We're just using this foam roller as an awareness tool. Okay, now let's do the other leg. So this is the leg that might not be giving you the issues, but sometimes we're at the lower part of the leg. So we're the same sequence, but just other leg. Sometimes where we are feeling the pinching, the pulling, the tightness, whatever it is, sometimes it might be because the other leg is really tight. So the leg that hurts is compensating for the other leg's lack of mobility. Sometimes that's the case, not all the time, right? Every body is different. Any areas that feel especially tight, you could double back and forth. Right, we're using these myofascial release tools to massage our own body. Once you feel like, okay, calf has got enough, now we go to hamstring, back of the thigh. And any of these pieces, only you know where in your body feels tight. So I want you to, if there's areas where you need to spend more time, that's okay, right? Your areas might be different than my areas. I tend to spend a little more time on my calves because my calves are freaking tight. And then we go glute on that side. And just noticing, is this side tighter? Maybe, maybe not. We're going to go back to things. We're taking an inventory, like, okay, oh, that, all right. Oh yeah, that spot. Make sure you get the side of that hip. Take a big breath in, big breath out. Okay, foam rolling. It not only releases muscle tissue, it also helps to increase circulation. Okay, that's very, very good. Okay, now we're going to roll to the front of the body before we get into more pinpointed. So hitting our shins first. And when we hit our shins, we don't want to go right on the shin bone. This doesn't feel good, but we do want to go on the anterior tibialis, which is this meaty muscle on the lateral part of the leg. So rolling from the ankle to the knee, you got to use your arms. You got to lift yourself off the floor. My other leg is on the floor so that I have my other leg supporting me. And that way there's not so much pressure on my arms. Take a breath. Oh my gosh. Sometimes the culprit might be in the shins. Those shin muscles get so tight. Do the other one. Oh. And you can add more pressure by adding more body weight. You're in charge here. Also, the firmer your foam roller is, the more intense it is. The softer your foam roller is, the less intense it is. And the more you do foam rolling, the less painful it is. I promise you. Now, after shins, we're going to go to our quads. We're going to go from the top of the knee all the way up into the hip crease here. Now, I have my other leg kind of like a frog leg like this, and then I'm on my forearms. This is how I start. And I make sure my foam roller is right at the top of my knee. And then I use my kind of army crawl to roll the roller up into my hip crease. And then I bring it back, right? So I'm pushing the blood towards the heart, taking a big breath, letting that leg relax over the roller, and then bring it back up. Ooh. And I'm finding different angles on my thigh, rolling my leg in, getting more of an outer slice of that thigh all the way up into the hip crease. trying to relax that leg. And I just found this big knot in my thigh, and I'm just going to hang out here for a little bit, double back and forth, drawing the core in, shoulders back. Foam rolling is a workout also. Oh my gosh. So any area like this, if you need to double back and forth, after you're done going back and forth, kind of breaking up that knot, then give it a long stroke all the way, pushing towards the heart, right? Push that blood towards the heart. Whew. Okay, and after you're done with that thigh, then we're going to go to the other front of the thigh. Oh. Just identifying, like, this, what feels, what's the difference between the right to the left? Are they the same areas that are tight? Are there different areas that are tight? I definitely noticed there are different areas that are tight for me. Strong forearms, shoulders out of the ears. Now, once you've done both thighs, and you might feel like you need to do more time on those thighs, that's okay. But I do want to hit the inner thighs also. So we're going to go frog leg out to the side. I turn my foam roller so it's parallel to my spine. And then I'm going to roll my inner thigh from the inside of my knee all the way towards my groin. Just being mindful that I'm not putting too much pressure when you get up into the groin area, because you got lots of like lymph nodes and stuff like that. So we don't need to push into that area, but it is nice to roll those inner thighs out and do one side, do the other. Okay. Then we come on up. Now this is the fun part. Now we're going to take our smaller tool, right? Our smaller tool, and we're going to go back and revisit. So I want you to think about, okay, what was the area for you? For me, I definitely feel like my right hip is locked up right around my sacrum on this right side, right into this hip crease, even into this down this right hamstring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to start by my hip, try to unlock my hip joint a little bit, because I can feel, as I was foam rolling earlier, I felt how it was stuck. So it might be your hip. It might be your shin that felt like, wow, that is really locked up. It could be your hamstring. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to follow the line of tension. And it feels like a tight guitar string, you know, and that's kind of what it feels like. And what you can do is use this smaller tool and just kind of go back and forth over that, like, bing, kind of tight string. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And so I'm following this line. Oh, there it is. From my glute muscle. Now I'm in my hamstring with the ball and I'm going back and forth. I might hold this and lean into it a little bit, right? I have the ball underneath my hamstring and I'm like, oh, I feel it. It's down the back of my leg. That's where my tightness is. So you're just identifying like, okay, wow, that's the pulling. And you're just going to apply pressure onto that, the line of tightness. And you can follow it all the way down. This is also where, you know, this yoga block comes into handy. So there might be areas like this part of my hamstring, it doesn't really feel good to be down the floor. But if I put a yoga block and then my ball on top of the yoga block, now, oh. And sometimes I just hang out and I shake my leg out. And then I could repeat that again. I could take it all the way down to my knee. So that might be it. You know, in those hips is a great place. You could also, on the yoga block with the ball, do the same thing. If that gives you more, you got to find what works for your body, for the area that you're trying to get into. Let me show you how to do this on your quads, because sometimes it's the quad you need to revisit. You are exploring what you need to explore here. I'm just going to keep talking this out. We're going to go for about another 2 minutes. That's it. So identifying that tight area, working that line all the way to the closest joint. That's what you want to think. So you're working that muscle, that tight line, all the way to the next joint, whatever that next joint is. So let's say it's your thigh here, right? I could take my ball, and this one is a little sensitive. So I would just hold. And there's different techniques. There could be back and forth, side to side, and then more of just like a lean into it and then release, lean into it and release. And I know it's painful. but this is a very temporary pain for a long time release, and it will get easier the more you do this. Oh my gosh. Sometimes it helps to sing it out. And you might have a couple areas that you need to spend time on. Like me, I'm like, okay, I hit the back of my leg. Okay, let me hit the front of my leg. Take a breath. Oof. Watch your posture while you do these things. Shoulders back. You're finding that core engagement. And then start to wrap up whatever you're doing. And then whatever part of your body that you dug into with that smaller device, I just want you to take your foam roller and give it some long, just kind of easy breezy, push in towards the heart. Encourage the length in that muscle, encourage the circulation in that muscle, right? I hit that thigh, and then I also hit this hamstring, so I'm going to go over here. Just long strokes. Encourage the length, encourage the space. Our nerves need space, our muscles need space. And so just kind of knead out the dough a little bit. Woo. Now, depending on what you have coming next, if you are using your foam rolling as a warm-up, the next thing to do before you go to your workout, let's say you're going running or you're going to go lift weights, would be to do a little bit of range of motion in the joints. So let's say we just did hips. Maybe you do some windshield wipers. Right? You've opened up the joint. Now get some range of motion in that joint. Right, you could take it all the way up into these 90-90. Since we just did the hips, this is actually the perfect thing to do. Just keeping those ankles locked out, the feet nice and bright. Going as slow as you need to go. If my pace is too quick, slow it down, please. And with our range of motion, we're not stretching. What I want you to do is get mobility into that joint. And that's it. If there's other like little range of motion, mobility exercises you want to do, now would be the perfect time because you massaged those muscles, you loosened things up, you created space, and now let your body really feel into that space. So I hope that helps you really take your health into your own hands. And when we're in pain, being in pain sucks, but there are things that you can do. And using your tools is one of those things.